Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leake, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
How are we going today?
I'm very good.
That's very good
Absolutely
to hear.
bubbling.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tone it down a notch, man.
All right, yeah. Well, we got 25 minutes to lower that tone.
No, well, I'm sure we can get there.
Well, and end on our usual, everything's stuffed.
Hey, look,
moment, but
let's be optimistic.
Let's
here.
not spoil.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Well, Greg, this week, another voice has joined the chorus of economic hot takes that has been building before the upcoming economic roundtable, which turns out is, turning out to be a bit of a bigger deal than I first anticipated. Turns out a lot of people care about economics. Who'd have thought? The Productivity Commission has jumped into the conversation with their recent interim reports, and they had some hot takes on an interesting range of topics, not just tax. They also had some takes about climate and AI.
And so I support the work of the PC. I'm not surprised that not everybody forms an orderly queue to agree with every element of it, but it's an important input, and I'm pleased to see people engaging with it.
Sounds like you're open to this idea.
Thing is, the big problem we've got is that Australia is dominated by a relatively small number of companies in a small number of industries, and they are very, very profitable. And they don't want to pay more tax. They yell and they scream every time there's any proposal, even though 31% of companies aren't paying any tax at the moment.
But unlike Vinnie's and surprisingly the Commonwealth Bank, they had some suggestions you probably didn't agree with.
Yeah. And yes, listeners, Elinor is constantly surprised that you're interested in economics.
Hey, no, not listeners, just people in general.
People in general. Okay, yeah, you're right. The Productivity Roundtable that Jim Chalmers has set up has actually, you're quite right, delivered a fair bit of momentum of actually.
Are you surprised by that, or is it just like?
Look, yes and no. I mean, the government did in the first term with IR, and it kind of
Industrial relations.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it kind of didn't get that momentum, and I think it was probably because everyone was lulled into thinking, this is just going to be a talk fest and nothing will happen. And the government actually made some fairly big changes coming out of that.
And they were like, hang on a second.
Yeah, and especially employer groups and conservative media, of which there are quite a few in this country, are this time around going, yeah, we're coming to fight. This is going to be big. And, the Fin Review is almost already trying to paint it, the roundtable was a failure. And
hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, it hasn't even happened yet. And but they and the Oz are trying to pretty much set up the parameters such that, unless there's consensus around everything, it's a failure. And it's like, no, this is a roundtable where we're getting people with different views in the room and we're going to chat about things. And afterwards, the government will think, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
What were some good ideas? What are some ideas that maybe we could, think about doing in part? It's certainly not going to be, at the end of the roundtable, there's not going to be, the ACTU and the BCA are standing next to each other going, yes, employers and workers have come together as one with Jim Chalmers and we're going to do this very little nothing thing. It's going to be, this is basically, to be honest, a standard old process that governments always used to do of, we want to talk about a policy or we want to come up with some new policy ideas. Let's get a lot of views. We mightn't agree with all of them, but we want to hear them. And then when we come out with a policy, no one can say, hey, you didn't ask me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this is. But what is also underpinning it is, and this started back in December, Jim Chalmers asked the Productivity Commission to come up with 5 papers on productivity, and he's called it 5 pillars. And what you're saying is this week, we've got the first 3 of them.
So to start off with, they had one around tax.
Yeah.
Let's start off with that. What were they advocating for?
Yeah, that was kind of the first big one out of the gate, talking about building a resilient and dynamic economy. But it was basically, we're talking about tax and specifically company tax. we actually made a submission to this inquiry where we said, don't cut company tax because it doesn't improve productivity. It just improves profits, and a lot of those profits are going to go overseas.
Yep.
And you'd be shocked. The Productivity Commission ignored us. They came out with a proposal to cut company tax.
Are they saying it's going to improve productivity?
Sort of, yeah. They kind of squint and suggest it would. But what they're doing is a couple of different things. And I think at this point, we kind of need to explain where we are right now. Now,
Yeah.
at the moment, there are two rates of company tax. There's 30% for big business. That's for all businesses with a turnover of more than $50 million.
That is a big business.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's medium and big size business.
Okay.
For small businesses with a turnover of under 50 million a year, it's 25%.
Okay.
Okay. That was done back in 2015-16, I think, from memory. The Australian Institute was very strong in our advocacy, saying do not cut it for big business, which was certainly on the cards. They didn't, thank goodness.
Yeah.
So what the Productivity Commission has recommended are two things. First thing is a tax cut for small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go from 25% to 20% if you've got less than 50 million annual turnover, so small business. For medium-sized businesses, which they class as from 50 million to 1 billion.
It's a wide range.
Wide range.
Yep.
They're going to go from 30% to 20%.
Oh, wow.
A huge cut. Big businesses, more than $1 billion. So if you're BHP, if you're all the banks, all of those, you don't get a tax cut at all. You stay at 30%.
Progressive.
Yeah. And then the next part, though, is they're adding in a new tax, a 5% net cash flow tax.
Oh,
And
boy.
please, I hope you're still awake at this point because I've used the word tax a lot and thrown around a lot of percents.
Net cash flow tax.
Net cash flow, a 5% net cash flow tax. So,
what is a net cash flow tax?
So first, let's think of what's happening with the numbers. And the easy one is the small business. So small business, we're going to cut it from 25 to 20, but we're adding in a 5% tax on top of that. So you think, oh, isn't that just going back to 25%? What's the whole point of all of this? Now, this comes to what is a net cash flow tax. It's one, the critics are saying, oh, no one does this anywhere else in the world. It's terrible. Basically, what it is kind of a version of the instant asset write-off.
I have no idea what that is.
So an instant asset write-off is with businesses at the moment, if you invest in things, if you buy some equipment or something, you can't just write that all off on tax immediately.
Okay.
You can't just sort of say, oh, I bought a $200,000 truck or something, or tractor or, new piece of equipment. I'm just going to write that off straight away. No, what you have to do is you have to depreciate it over the cost of it over the life of the equipment.
Okay.
That involves some interest repayments. That involves taking into account basically inflationary effects and everything.
Yeah.
And what it basically means is each year let's say you spend $200,000, you're not able to deduct that from your business expenses in your tax straight away, $200,000. You're doing a smaller percent of that. The instant asset write-off is basically saying, no, you can claim all $200,000 straight away.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I'm using $200,000. The instant asset write-off was not that big. It was, around $20,000. It's been sort of bumping up and down over the years.
So you up to that amount you can write
and
off.
It's been very good for small businesses and very good, and by I mean very good, it's been very good for small businesses who want to buy a big dumb ute and say, oh, no, this is not used for personal reasons. This is a work vehicle.
Is that not a cynical take, Greg?
There is a reason why 3 out of the top 4 Australian cars are utes.
Yep.
And it ain't because we suddenly have had a surge of tradies. What we've got is a lot of people who realise, oh, I'm a tradie and I can buy a really nice ute. And if you look at all these utes, the adverts for a lot of them are not, oh, this is good for work. It's, no, this is great for going camping and for the kids. And, it's, there's plenty of room for everything. And because it's a ute, it can be claimed as tax. And, it's just undeniable it's had that impact. So what the net cash flow tax is basically kind of that on steroids.
Okay.
So the reason why they're doing it is because, and this would apply to all businesses, not just small, medium, but even the big businesses as well, is they're saying what we need to get productivity going, which is the whole thing, is we need businesses to invest in things. Because
Yeah.
if you got new equipment, new technology, new research that you can provide to the workers to use, that will make their jobs easier, better, faster,
More productive.
more productive.
Mm.
And so they're saying, okay, if you're allowed to instantly deduct all of it, that will encourage you to invest more. Because it's only 5%, so it's less than the 20% or the 30% company tax, the best way to reduce that 5% is just invest right now, invest some more, that because your costs are going to be bigger. So theoretically, they're saying, let's say if you're a small business, okay, you're paying less company tax, you're going from 25 to 20, but then you go, oh, but I got to pay a new 5%. Doesn't that take me back up to 25? And the Productivity Commission is going, yeah, if you don't do any investing, but if you do any investing, you won't pay much of that 5%. And so overall you pay less tax. But if you're a big business, 30 million, 1 billion or more, you're still at 30%. You're not getting a company tax cut, but you're getting this new 5% net cash flow tax
that you have an incentive to avoid.
That you have an incentive
invest.
to avoid by investing in new equipment, new buildings, new stuff that hopefully the Productivity Commission says is going to make us all more productive.
This doesn't sound terrible.
Look, it's...
But are you just concerned about...
One, why the only reason really they've cut the company tax is because they know this new tax is going to raise more money.
Yeah.
And they wanted to present a package that was budget neutral.
So I see.
They're not really cutting company tax to raise productivity. They're doing it because they actually think this new cash flow tax is the one that's going to really improve things. But if they just introduce that, it's like, oh, everyone's paying new tax, so we better counter that. And that's pretty much
Isn't this only budget neutral if no one actually invests and everyone has to pay the...
Because they're lowering the tax cut only for small and medium businesses, they're basically raising, because big businesses, BHP, Rio Tinto, all the big ones who actually pay most of the tax, they're not getting a tax cut. They're getting a new tax on top.
Oh, okay.
You get me? So the Productivity Commission were kind of hoping that, we're giving a tax cut to small, medium businesses, so they'll come out in favor of this. And big businesses will look greedy and everything. And guess what? Straight after, a whole group of business lobby groups all got together, put out a statement decrying it. Minerals Council of Australia, Business Council of Australia, and the Small Business Association of Australia came out against these tax changes, which theoretically will actually deliver their members a tax cut. It just, which really highlights how power works in this country and how often small businesses and small groups are used by big businesses as basic cannon fodder.
Do you dislike the net flow tax?
I don't hate it. I think it's kind of useless for small business because small business, again, what are they going to do? They're going to buy a lot of utes.
You just don't think that they're going to invest in the amount.
I mean, look, most productivity benefits flow from bigger businesses. And yes, they're kind of right to say medium-sized businesses because that can be a lot of real new startup businesses that want to become a big business. But, if you're a tradie, you're a tradie. You're probably a sole trader. You might have a couple employees or an apprentice or something, but it's not like there's not a lot of capacity for you to improve your own productivity. Yeah, there is new equipment obviously comes out in things like that, but it's not the same as these huge businesses that really do have scope to actually improve productivity in a significant way. So it's kind of like, I can see for small business, it's just going to be more utes. For medium businesses, look, it might improve it, but again, you're dropping their tax rate from 30 to 20%.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money
big
that
jump, yeah.
we're
Big
losing in revenue.
drop.
So I think it's okay. But I have concerns about how it's going to actually impact things.
I'm optimistic that AI can be a force for good, but I'm also realistic about the risks. Artificial intelligence is a game changer for our economy. It has the potential to support all of our major economic goals, making our economy more productive, stronger, lifting living standards over time, and every single part of our lives will be impacted.
The Productivity Commission also had an interim report out to do with AI, which is pretty new and, relatively unexplored terrain for the government. It's all very new to most of us. What were they suggesting, the Productivity Commission?
This, almost surprisingly, has been, I think, in some ways, the most controversial thing that they've put out so far.
Well, I mean, AI is a bit more, interesting than I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I think most people are more interested in AI than tax.
Because it's new, because it's but I think
it's new
one
and
of
unusual.
the things, look, when people hear company tax is going to get cut, they don't think, I'm going to lose my job. But when they hear, we're going to increase AI, they go, okay, so you're getting a computer
Skynet's
to
taking over. Yeah.
And to be honest, the Productivity Commission has not exactly helped counter those fears with its proposal.
Okay.
And
look,
basically
like
they want to reduce a lot of the regulations that may limit the use of AI. Because let's go back, when we're talking AI, what we're talking about, these essentially computer programs that scrape everything they can find on the web, all books, all websites, all journal articles and everything, and use that to make it, in a sense, we're learning. But basically it's just, taking all of that information in, so then you can, it will hopefully use all that information notionally in the right way, although that's pretty dodgy as all hell. One of the problems is, and we've seen this with things like ChatGPT and others, is they've scraped every novel in the world. Now, at the moment, all these Microsoft and all these other companies, Grok or whatever on Twitter, they're saying, "Oh no, this is training, it's learning, it's akin to researchers at universities." Quoting from novels or quoting from things. We don't need to pay copyright when you, for example, if you're writing a thesis, in university thesis or university, and you quote from a novel, you don't have to pay the copyright holder of that novel because I've quoted them in my journal article that I've published or in my book that I've published, because it's learning. It's part of academia. It's part of education. And ChatGPT and all these others saying, yeah, same here. And it's like, really? You've taken all the novels in the world and you put in a program to enable people to type in, write me a story about hobbits or something, and it'll do it, And copyright laws are pretty sketchy on that.
Yeah.
And the problem is these companies are so huge, so wealthy that, what's an author going to, or even the publishers who are pretty strapped for cash, are they going to sue these people to try and get their money back? It's just not worth it. But what the Productivity Commission has said, we probably should make sure we loosen the rules around fair dealing with copyright, because we don't want to inhibit these big AI models. And everyone's like, so basically you're saying, yeah, they probably shouldn't have been doing what they're doing, so let's make sure they're allowed to do it in the future.
Are they, again, they just think it's good for productivity?
Yeah, they think AI is going to improve productivity. And a lot of that improvement in productivity seems to be coming from fewer workers doing these jobs. And, but the modeling's pretty sketchy in my view. They're talking, anywhere between $1 and $10 billion a year extra into the economy, which, to be honest,
that's a very wide range.
Yeah, and also, to be honest, it's not a lot. And yet Australian publishers and writers are very quickly going, yeah, thanks, guys. You're
Yeah.
basically saying, come and steal my book.
Stuff copyright law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's, I think, one area where we're going to see the government say, maybe not, because we're already seeing the opposition sort of come out against it. Even, the Australian front page of the Australian was very much against this.
Okay.
And the Productivity Commission does not have a great history of supporting local publishing. They're kind of like, it's a book, get it from overseas, it'll be cheaper. And publishers are like, but yeah, if we can't, if we're just worrying about the cost of books, then everyone will buy and foreign books, and who cares about Australian authors, Australian culture?
I mean, doesn't this really just show, Greg, that, the focus may be too much on productivity here instead of, what else we can benefit from in supporting, I don't know, like local Australian authors, artists.
Or just Australians in general,
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. The problem with productivity, and you think about with a book, if you're just a boring economist, you're like, oh, this 400-page book was written by a language learning machine, and this 400-page book was written by a author who spent 3 years writing it, and it's craftable. It's 400 pages.
Yeah.
Who's to say what the quality is? That's a subjective
Well,
thing.
we
I'm
can't
just
measure
looking
that,
at the
yeah.
output, and so that certainly is the problem with all of this. We have to remember, okay, what are we ending up with here? And that's why it goes back also to the company tax. Oh, we company tax, great. Does that mean we have less revenue? Does that, that means we can't spend on things that matter and all this. So, yeah, really good point. Got to bring it back to always, what actually is the economy? What is the whole point of all of this? And it shouldn't just be, our productivity god. This goes to something that we've sort of mentioned before. Aged care workers are less productive than other types of workers.
Yep.
But does that mean they're less necessary, less vital to our life, our society? If all we care about is productivity, we miss a hell of a lot. Productivity is important. It might help us have better living standards, but that doesn't mean it's something that you sacrifice everything at the altar of.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice note to end this economics podcast on, the intangible qualities of life. Just as a very quick thing at the end, is there anything new happening in Trumpland, Greg, that you quickly wanted to rant about?
Yeah. And last week, the US Bureau of Labor Studies released some employment data that showed job growth in America is pretty crap. They also revised our numbers for May and June, showing that job growth was even worse than they thought.
Right, yes.
Worst annual growth of jobs outside the pandemic since, the global financial crisis. Things going crap. Trump didn't like this. And so as you'd expect, he sacked the person who was in charge of the numbers, the official statistician.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Because I think her numbers were wrong. Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. Days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala. I guess Biden/Kamala.
He sacked her because he thought that these numbers were fake. And he also said that, she faked the numbers last year to make Kamala Harris look good and then changed them after the election. And it's like, no, actually, they revised them during, I think it was September. So they did, everything was complete lies. But yeah, he's sacked the official statistician. Now, the real problem with this, apart from being incredibly fascist, is that whoever they hire next, how do we trust the numbers that come out now? Because we know you produce numbers that Trump thinks are bad, you're going to lose your job. He's going to hire someone who's going to deliver the numbers that he wants. So can we trust the American official data now? And if you can't, that has big ramifications because Australian Treasury, the Reserve Bank, everyone else looks at America. It's the biggest economy in the world. How are they going?
Not well.
And we're seeing, this happening across the board with America, especially scientific research and recording of stats. It's now hit economics as well. It's a really bad sign because once you get to a point where, we can't even trust, things like unemployment, how many unemployed people, or inflation, that leads down to really dark places. And especially a key thing here, it's not just an academic thing. Welfare payments in America, like here in Australia, are linked to inflation. So let's say you got a statistician who goes, I know Trump wants some low inflation numbers. Well, we'll make sure these low inflation numbers are bad. Well, people on welfare, their payments won't go up by much, and they're looking out in the real world going, actually, I think prices are going up by a bit more than that. So it has real impacts. It's something you do only, it is not something that happens in a democratic nation. If warning signs are not blaring right now about Trump from everything that's going on, even for the nerdy sort of economists and everything, it really is, hey, we're there now. This is absolute authoritarianism, and it has dire implications.
All right. Well, I reckon that's probably all we've got time for today, Greg.
That's the positive note that we always seek to end.
That was your fault.
Thank you very much, Elinor, and thank you everyone for listening to us today. Sorry about all the mentions of tax and all those percentages.
It's an economics podcast.
It is. We'll be back again next week, except I won't be because I'm actually going on leave. So I'll be away for a bit, but Matt Grudenoff will be back in the chair as ever. But Elinor, you will be here.
I will be here next week.
We will not let you go.
Unfortunately, I won't be going away to a warm climate like Greg.
No. I'm going away somewhere warm so my throat can finally get better. This episode was recorded on the 7th of August, and some things may have changed, except probably not Trump being authoritarian.
Probably not.
My column, which actually looks at the whole sacking of the statistician by Trump and what that all means, can be found on the Guardian Australian website, and all the research on company tax, including our submissions to the Productivity Commission, some really good stuff on the need for wealth tax and just all manner of things you can find on the Australia Institute website, which is at, Elinor, where?
At australiainstitute.org.au.
That's very good. You know where we actually reside.
I do.
The music, as always, by Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week. I'll see you when I get back. I'm actually going to miss the Productivity Roundtable because I've got to be on leave. That was well timed by me.
Yep.
But Matt Grudenoff will
have a lot to say, I'm sure.
He's just going to be so excited to talk about. Have a great one. I'll see you when I get back.
See ya.